In this video, I'm going to explain how you as a first-time buyer can still access mortgages and get going with your buy-to-let journey. Frank Flegg here, founder of EPP. So, you're a first-time buyer and you'd like to buy a buy-to-let property. Awesome, good for you. You're going to be streets ahead of your peers in terms of finances in just a few years' time. However, how do you go about getting your first buy-to-let property if you've not even bought your own home yet? Well, there are two ways. The first way is there are actually specific products aimed at you, people who are still renting or living at home, to invest in property. So you can go out and get a first-time buyer buy-to-let mortgage. The second avenue is, if I'm honest, easier and far more common. And that is you need to become a homeowner. But you don't have to live in that home, and you don't have to go buy a home that you want to live in. So for example, I've got a couple of clients who have a great service accommodation buy to let portfolio that they don't own. They've done it on rent to rent. So they're making really good cash flow every month, and they've come across a landlord who doesn't want to do rent to rent. He wants to sell them. It's actually 2 guest houses for £1.8 million. But because they couldn't get a mortgage for £1.8 million, I've helped them to go and buy a £40,000 flat up north in joint names that's ticked the box for them to go and get the buy-to-let mortgage on the £1.8 million properties. And so the first factor to consider is it's going to be way easier for you if you are a homeowner, even if you don't live in that home. You might think, yeah, but Frank, if I'm buying the first property, I have to live in it. No, not at all. You might have enough money to go and buy a 40 grand flat or whatever the cheapest property you can find is, cash. And that will just tick that box, rent it out, wash its face, and now you can get buy-to-let mortgages in your area where you want to invest. Regardless of how you do it, so regardless of whether you go down the route of a specialist first-time buyer buy-to-let mortgage, or if you buy a property of some description, a cheap property normally, and then get a normal regular buy-to-let mortgage, it doesn't really matter which way you go down. You must be considering 3 crucial factors. The first factor is you must have an impeccable credit score. And by credit score, I mean obviously no defaults, no late payments, but there must be activity on your credit file. I come across investors sometimes that don't have any credit, and that actually is a risk to lenders because they don't know that you're good at repaying debt. They don't know that you're good at handling loans. So if you don't have it already, make sure you've got a mobile phone contract. Make sure you have a credit card that you actually live off each month but pay off in full at the end of the month. And if you have a car, consider getting some finance on it, because those 3 will give lenders a really good dollop of reassurance that you're worthy of a mortgage. The second factor to consider is the size of your deposit. If you've got a huge deposit, lenders are going to be falling over themselves to lend to you. If you've got a smaller deposit, the number of lenders are going to be really tight, their criteria is going to be really stringent, and the interest rates you're going to pay are much higher. Typically, I recommend a deposit of 25% because the number of lenders that will lend you 75% is really high. There are lenders out there that will offer 20% deposits, and some of them will even offer 15% deposit loans, but the interest rates are higher, they're harder to get, and I tend to advise investors not to rely on them. Some of my clients do achieve them. I prefer to go for 75% myself. The third and final factor is employment. If you are in employment with pay slips, with bank accounts showing that you're paid every month, then buy-to-let lenders will feel much better so long as your income is above £25,000 a year. Because their rationale is that if you're rubbish as a landlord, that's actually how they look at it. If you fail as a landlord and don't get good tenants, or you get bad tenants and they don't pay, or you can't find tenants at all, you'll be able to pay their mortgage, which is their only concern at the end of the day, out of your salary. And so those are the 3 factors that every lender will look at. Do you have a good credit score? Is there credit activity and is it reliable? Do you have a sizable deposit? That minimises their risk. And Are you in stable, significant employment? All three of those make you a far lower risk to a lender. It doesn't matter which type of loan you're going for, first time buyer, regular buy-to-let, all three of those are absolute necessities. And if you tick those three boxes, you'll have access to unlimited mortgages, because after the first time buyer one, you're no longer a first time buyer, and it gets easier and easier. And so there you have it, the two different ways that you can get going as a first time buyer in buy-to-let property investing, and the three crucial factors that no matter how you're mortgaging your properties, you must pay attention to. Happy investing. If you've enjoyed this video, guys, click subscribe, click like, click the notification bell, and you'll get way more of our great quality content. See you then.